with you at the inaugural session of your festival this year. I'm probably twice the age of most of the undergrad students here, but still, being in a college fest excites me to some degree because I also have so many associated memories of having myself taken part during my college days in such college fests. And so looking back, if you ask me, what is an important aspect of college? I'd be quick to tell you that participation is such an important thing. Participation in events like these, college fests. When I first joined my IRS training, this is after passing through the UPSC exam, so a bunch of young officers, probably 25 to 30-year-olds, we all gathered together, and the basic So, bunch of young officers gathered together, and already the basic denominator was set that, okay, all of us have passed a difficult exam. So it's taken for granted that you're good in studies. But then everyone is looking at each other, what more are you? Beyond being good in studies, what more are you? And that's when I felt that me having participated in music right from school and college days, I played a guitar. So having taken part in this fest or that fest, that suddenly was an asset for me. Music opened doors which otherwise wouldn't have opened for me. I'm taking music as an example. It could be anything else. It could be sports, it could be debate, art, or it could be any of these events. So participation enriches you, exposes you to something more. You may be the best singer in your class or the best gamer, but when you compete with others from your own school, or you compete with someone in an inter-school event, that's when it takes you up to the next level. Therefore, participation is so important, and I'm so glad that this is your inaugural fest, and what I've heard is from next year it's going to be even an inter-college festival. So much opportunity for all of you here. They keep saying that many business deals actually happen at golf courses, which means many times it's the informal conversations. So being good at one of these kind of events, like I was telling you how music opened doors for me which otherwise wouldn't have opened, you will see that later in life, beyond books and studies, if you are good in something else, that opens in unexpected ways. Today, though, I'm not going to talk just about that, but I want to ask you a question. After you finish your final year here from Immanuel College and you walk out the door, what is your expectation? Maybe college is preparing you to be the man or the woman that you're destined to be, but I'm sure your expectation when you walk out is you need some form of livelihood. Basically it comes down to bread and butter issue, right? You need a job. You need some form of livelihood. Till your college years, you're basically dependent on your parents. But after this, the next phase of your life, you're expected to start your own life, in the sense, earn by yourself, start your own family perhaps, be independent of your parents. And therefore, one of the important things out of college would be a form of livelihood, to get a job. So today, I want to start off by scaring you with a few statistics to show you how grim the employment situation in Nagaland is. Let's start with India. The unemployment rate in India is around 9 to 10%, which means out of every 10 people, one person is unemployed. But I was surprised to find out that among the states in India, Nagaland has the dubious distinction of being the highest unemployed. 25%. I didn't believe that Nagaland would be the highest. 25% means out of every 4 people, one is unemployed in Nagaland. So on one hand, we have very high literacy rates, almost 80%. We are above the Indian national average. And yet, when it comes to employment, why is it that we are the highest unemployed in India? So perhaps when you look at it deeper, it appears as if we are chasing only after a few jobs. and not all the kind of jobs that are available in the market. Perhaps we are only chasing after a few government jobs, whereas there are other avenues which are. So therefore today, we need to talk a little bit about beyond government jobs also, what avenues are there. The Nagaland state government came out with a document called Vision Nagaland 2030, which tries to say what Nagaland might be like in 2030. And it estimates that every year, around 9,500 to 10,000 graduates are being churned out by the system who are not able to get jobs. And the final year students this year, you'll add to that number, right? 10,000 people being churned out by colleges, but you're not able to get a job. So this is the kind of huge number that we're having to address. Therefore, what I'm saying is, there is a need for awareness for the diverse job opportunities available. At the same time, we need to understand that the scenario during our parents' generation and now is very different. I'll give you an example. My father graduated in the late 70s. He did an engineering degree as well. And when he came back to Nagaland, there was already a job waiting for him. In fact, at that time, there were many positions which were vacant because there were not enough Nagas who were qualified enough to take those positions, right? So it was a matter of him just graduate and come back and you'll get a job. Whereas compare that to today, most of you might have known about the NSSB exams, the Nagaland Staff Selection Board. 50,000 people competing for 600 jobs, right? That's like 90 or 100 people fighting for one job. So compare the situation during our parents' generation and now. The level of competition is very high. So which means if you want to get into this, you have to be very good at it, right? At the same time, you need to be aware of facilities beyond government jobs as well. As an example, I'll tell you about my job. As an IRS officer, taxation is my area. And the kind of people I deal with mostly is the business community, And one thing I can tell you is that not only in Nagaland, but everywhere in India, one community controls business. Which community is that? It's the Marwari community, How did they get there? Is this something overnight? No, I don't think so. It's done over generations, The grandfathers and fathers, they learn something, they pass it down to the children, The mistakes they learned while doing business. And over generations, they have learned how to keep the money rotating within the community, right? And so, whereas we in Nagaland, we keep talking that Nagaland eku scope nai, For others, our land appears to be a land of opportunity, As an IRS officer, I feel that why is our market, why is our economy being controlled by outsiders? Whereas we are running after a few government jobs, right? I'm not saying government job, I myself am in one, but we need to now expand and think beyond only government jobs because our local markets are controlled by others other than us, Nagas. So whether you're going to aim for the government sector or whether you're going to aim for a private job, how best can you prepare yourself to face the uncertain future that is ahead of you? So today, I want to talk about certain life skills, which even from college years, you can start honing that will prepare you to be in a position to better deal with these kind of futures, right? Life skills which you can learn right from college. I'll talk about 7 such life skills. The first one, learning to deal with failures. We always tend to talk about success stories only, everywhere we go, But who amongst us can claim to have never failed in life? Many times, it is because of fear of failure itself that sometimes we don't try. At my age, when you look around, you mostly see the people who have made it to where they are people who have kept going on despite the odds. In my UPSC journey, there were others who were far smarter than me, better students than me, more bright than me. But then after the first attempt, somehow something happened, they lost focus, they went. Those like me who kept hanging in there, despite the failures, somehow we ended up making it. You keep hearing about people who made it in the first attempt, but the truth is, on an average, such exams, be it NPSC, UPSC, people make it in the 3rd or 4th attempt, on an average, right? So, unless you learn to deal with failure, to pick yourself up and try again, it's not going to happen, right? I'll give you another example. Right now, when we look at, during our time, maybe someone was the most beautiful girl in college, and you ended up who she married now. Many times it's someone who you didn't expect, Perhaps that guy was the guy who didn't take no for an answer and kept going for it, So I'm just giving this as an example. You don't need to use it that during your annual fest, now you start proposing your crush, That kind of budnam I will not take. But this is just another kind of example I'm telling you. At a young age, your capacity to pick yourself up when you fall, that is greater. As you grow older, you'll find it more difficult to deal with failures. The second point, learning to step out of your comfort zone. Even the great Isaac Newton, the scientist who did so many great things, he once said that he thought he was like a boy playing along the seashore. And once in a while, he'd find a better seashell, he'd find a better rock, whereas the whole ocean lay undiscovered before him. Someone like Isaac Newton said something like that. So therefore, don't become a person who is so cocooned inside your small world that you forget about what is there outside. All of us have heard about the river Jordan. That's the river in which Jesus got baptized. The river Jordan flows into a body of water called the Dead Sea. Why is it called the Dead Sea? There is no outlet for the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is a toxic environment. No fishes grow in the Dead Sea. So if you keep yourself only in your small world, without stepping out, you'll become like a Dead Sea. And soon there'll be nothing else around you because your environment is so toxic. It is only when you step out of your comfort zone that you actually discover the kind of person that you are, what you are capable of, or in fact, what you're not capable of also, right? So stepping out of your comfort zone. Moving on, the third point, work on your networking and communication skills. Here I'm talking about the ability to express what you have to say very clearly. What I find is when Naga students end up going to Shillong or Delhi or Bangalore, many times it is because of our lack of communication skills that we very quickly fall behind, See, in our schools also the situation is what? If someone asks too many questions, he's branded over smart, isn't it? Bishi Janyan is not. And so our environment is such that Janili Nokoe, Sorong Hai, for fear of what others will say. Whereas what I find is outside Dusra Manawando, like even if the content is less, because they are confident, they're able to like they move ahead of us. Whereas we, even Janya do we kuli na pare, we, because of the Sorong Hai attitude, many times even what we know, we are not able to express when we go outside. Therefore, if from college days you can build this up, ability to express yourself, at least what you know clearly, then this is a very good life skill which will stand wherever you go in life. In the real world, it's usually the crying baby that gets the milk, which means nobody will come to you giving you everything on a platter. Even in my office work, I have found that many times at an all India level, from Nagaland, I have to make some noise for them to know that Nagaland devi kam hoya je GST laga, because when it comes to funds being distributed, unless I show that Nagaland devi itu kuriya je, from Delhi, they will not really bother, if I stay quiet in my own shell, right? So time to time you have to make noise, only then you do get noticed. That is the real world. If you have that Sorong Khai kind of attitude, you'll be left behind, right? Moving on, the next point. Everyone also needs to have some idea about financial literacy and awareness. Basically, you need to know how to manage your money. I know that during college years, most of you will be living off pocket money from your parents or your guardians, but even from this age, if you learn something about money, how the financial world works, this will stand you in good stead. You need to have some basic ideas about investment and savings, taxation, right? You need to have an idea that maintaining good paperwork is a life skill that you start from now. For example, let's say even your certificates, In my generation, most of our certificates, we keep it under the mattress, Like, if I want to ask my mom, Amma, class 10 admit card, she'll look under the mattress because all the important certificates are kept there. But then you can move on, at least get a file, keep all of them important. And later on, when you become an entrepreneur, start working, when the GST people come to you, you need to have all your accounts done properly. For Nagas, this is documentation is we are very poor at it. Even if you give someone on rent in your house, we don't go for a written agreement. You go outside as college students. When we stayed in rent near college, we have to write an agreement every year. So documentation is an important thing. You can start even from a very young age. You need to be aware of online scams that happen. Everyone is on social media, be it on Facebook, Instagram. There are financial scams that keep happening. You being young, you need to be aware of it, and in fact educate your parents who perhaps may fall for such scams, and then you lose a lot of money over some mistakes you made online using your mobile phones. You need awareness about taxes also. Here in Nagaland, we keep saying Nagamanondi could tax nidi, which is not true. Income tax we don't pay because tribals working in tribal area, we don't have to pay income tax. That's how Nagas, we don't pay income tax. But all of us are paying GST in some way or the other. You must have gone and eaten at KFC. If next time you go, you look at the bill. After your burger and chicken and whatnot, niche you'll find something that says CGST as GST. Which means you and me, each time you do something like that, we are paying GST, right? Customs duty. Most people here, I'm sure you like eating Korean noodles, Each time you buy that packet of Shim Ramyun or whatever Korean noodle you're eating, the customs duty has been paid by the person who has bought that huge boxes from Korea. So when he gets it, let's say through Calcutta or Bombay, he pays an extra amount called customs duty and he adjusts it to your total. So the actual value of that packet in Korea may be $50, but here you're paying 100 or 150 because the customs duty has been added. So don't say Nagamanondo tax nidi. We are all paying GST or customs at least. Income tax we are not paying yet, right? I could keep talking about these because these are my subjects, but this I'm just mentioning so that you have some awareness. One of the best pieces of advice I have received is that someone told me, spend less than what you earn. It seems like a very simple thing, spend less than what you earn. But this is something we are all guilty of violating. I find that many times we Nagas like to live in very grand ways, even as college students in the cities, the kind of our priorities, like Gordido, you may be eating dal and rice, but you have to wear branded clothes, That our priorities are like that. So many times I've seen that outside, the kind of image that our outsider friends, non-Nagas have of Nagas is that, wow, these guys know how to live a good life, they know how to party, they know how to dress well. But when they come and see Nagaland, they're in for a disappointment most of the time. I've faced it myself. They come and say, Are, it's actually like this, you don't even have basic necessities, you don't have decent roads, you don't have electricity, water, and yet, Bahadido, so these are food for thought. Even in our lifestyle, if we begin to live as per our earnings, right from college days, this will stand you to good stead. Moving on, the next point, my fifth point, be aware of your own culture and your heritage, where you're coming from, basically. When it comes to Naga culture and other cultures that influence us today, one of the biggest influences for youth, undeniably, would be Korean culture. I mean, from food to fashion, music, movies, K-drama, the Korean wave, or Hallyu, you call it, you guys know it better than me, has taken over many countries in the West, including India and Nagaland. So basically, Hallyu is Korea's cultural export. They're exporting their pop culture, entertainment, music, TV, movies, and you name it. I have no problem with Korean culture. I myself enjoy it. My wife enjoys it, But we must understand, negative stereotypes are formed in our mind. But when you actually meet someone from that tribe or someone from that group of people, that's when your negative stereotypes get dispelled. Just because you have been doing something a certain way, or just because your family or your tribe or your clan has been doing something in a specific way all these years, doesn't mean that's the best way to do it. Doesn't mean that's the only way to do it also, right? When you mingle with people who are different from you, it helps to recognize other ways of thinking which are different from your own. And as you interact more, you start to build relationships of respect, of trust and understanding across cultures, which is very important in this day and age. Many times we Nagas have this mentality of plain Manuhan, right? Tsimar, Kholami, whatever you call them. But listen to this. Nagaland only generates 10% of our revenue. 90% we are dependent on New Delhi. Okay? Nagaland, from our budget every year, only 10% we are producing by ourselves. 90% we are going with a bowl, a begging bowl to Delhi asking for funds. So, though Nagamanuan bishi putani bishi dangor babe, remember that plain Manu that you look down upon, the bitter truth is that it is because of some honest Indian, it is because of some honest plain Manu who has paid his taxes that we are getting the 90%. I think this is food for thought for all of us, you know. Negative stereotypes. We are actually living off someone else's. 90% of our basket is coming from somewhere else. 10% ekla thaging na man putani on the streets. You're walking like your dad owns the road, right? My last point. Utilizing available resources instead of waiting for perfect conditions. The Bible in Ecclesiastes 11:4 says, if you wait for perfect conditions, you will never get anything done, right? If you wait for perfect conditions, you will never get anything done. You have to learn to use what you have in your hand many times instead of wishing for that perfect conditions when the stars align and everything comes together and you make your move. The ability to adjust to a situation and to go ahead. Chalo, let's just do it with what we have in our hand. This is a very important life skill you should start even from college days. See, Moses had a stick in his hand. That little boy had bread and 2 fish. And yet God used what they had in their hand to perform his big miracle, isn't it? Many times God uses what is there in the situation with that person to perform his miracle. Many times we Nagas, we blame our circumstances. Only if this was there, only if that was there. But perhaps now we need to begin to look beyond that. You know, you yield what you have in your hand and say, Lord, use this to do whatever good you have for me in my destiny, right? So, just to sum up, all these life skills you can practice during a fest like this by participating, right? Because each time you participate, you are exposing yourself to failure. You're moving out of your comfort zone, right? You are interacting with people who are different from you. And you are using whatever you have in your hands. You are improving your communication skills each time you try and do that. So therefore, make the best of your opportunities. Like the theme of our festival says, Carpe Diem, which means to seize the day. I encourage all of you to seize the day, and I encourage everyone, and especially the participants, I wish them all the best, and I hope that this festival just grows from strength to strength every year, especially all the best to the management as you go and make it bigger from next year, make it an inter-college fest. Thank you for your patient listening. Have a nice day.